that were prevalent at that time. Once we got independence, Dr. Ambedkar, he proposed a common civil code post-independence during the process of the Constituent Assembly meetings. Now, UCC, it covers aspects of marriage, divorce, inheritance, adoption, succession, and various other aspects that concern, quote-unquote, the personal lives of human beings. What is the legal position right now? Let's talk about post-independence, what kind of laws have existed. As I said, Dr. Ambedkar was the key proponent of a uniform civil code. It's thanks to him that we have the Hindu Personal Law or the Hindu Code Bill that made sweeping reforms in the Hindu personal law. The Hindu Code Bill, talking about it, personal laws for Hindus, Jains, Sikhs and Buddhists, but all these laws have been rationalized and more importantly, none of them right now are in violation with any kind of fundamental rights. The Muslim personal law operates largely on the Shariat Application Act. This is to protect the customary practices amongst Muslims. In other personal laws as well, there are various issues that we have seen. There is a longer waiting period for Christians upon divorce if they seek from court. And there are various other problems and anomalies that exist in different aspects of personal law of different communities. Let's talk about what are the problems which are surrounding the Uniform Civil Code. What are the impediments? Now, various personal laws are violative of the right to equality, Article 14 of Indian Constitution. Personal laws also guard patriarchy. They are very discriminatory against women. All these personal laws and a majority of them can be termed to be anti-women, and that is why there is a demand that this should be seen from the prism of a gender equality debate. Various forms of oral talaq under the Muslim personal law have been found problematic, and that is why you had the intervention coming in from the Supreme Court. Even there are certain very disturbing practices like female genital mutilation which are under the consideration of the Supreme Court as some practices which are prevalent in some communities. Marriage of minor girls, which is prevalent in Muslim law, which is allowed per se in Muslim law, is something that has been hotly debated and contested. As I said earlier, what is hindering the Uniform Civil Code? What are the challenges that lie in the way? And I specifically want to refer to the earlier report of the Law Commission under Justice B.S. Chauhan. That report spoke about the special protection that has been given to various northeastern states. Land inheritance rights for the tribals cannot be at par under the Indian Succession Act and various civil laws that exist. There is also the legal protection to local customs and laws that has been given under Part 3 of Indian Constitution. There are matriarchal tribes that have different rules of succession, and all of that need to be accommodated under the concept of diversity. There are various judicial precedents that protect personal laws. The infamous case of Narasua Mali that says that fundamental rights and personal laws, they cannot be tested against each other, especially the essential religious practice. That's one aspect that the Supreme Court and the judiciary has guarded. Now, that's largely about the Uniform Civil Code, the ambit, the problems and the key issues that come in the way. But despite these issues, reform is a process that any society should undertake. And that being said, is a time that India should take a leap and make that directive principle of state policy a reality. Joining us on the broadcast is Mr. C.R. Keswan, who's the national spokesperson of the BJP, Adil Hassan from the AIMIM, Amber Zaidi, who's an activist, Sumaya Rana, who's a national spokesperson from the Samajwadi Party, Amana Begum Ansari, who's a policy analyst, is also joining us on the broadcast, and Yasmin Faruqi from the SDPI. Good evening to all of you. Thank you so much for joining us on the broadcast. Adilji, I want to come to you first, and I want you to set the debate. As I argued in my show, when I'm very clear in my head, that when it comes to Uniform Civil Code, it is less of the issue of minorities, but it is also the issue of equality, Article 14, which should be given to all men and women. Various personal laws are highly discriminatory in nature, and that is a task which is forbidden under Indian Constitution. I want your view. Adilji.
My leader, Barrister Asaduddin Owaisi Sahab, very categorically explained everything in his press conference that it is Hindu Uniform Code. Mr. Modi wants to set up one frame of all the community. In India, in every 50 kilometers, we change our language, we change our dress, we change our fooding habit. In Northeast, cultural rights are given to Nagaland people, Mizoram people. I want to ask BJP that what BJP will do on 341. It is in the Hindu dhobi, they get the reservation, whereas the Christian dhobi, the washerman, and the Muslim washerman dhobi, they don't get reservation. This is the discrimination which Mr. Modi talks about pasmanda, but his government filed an affidavit in the Supreme Court that now Muslim dhobi and Christian dhobi can't get the SC status. I want to ask the Honorable Prime Minister, why not any pasmanda? Why not any pasmanda MP or any Muslim MP in his cabinet, minister in the cabinet, any Muslim MP, any pasmanda MP in BJP? Why not Mr. Modi rewarded Arif Mohammad Khan, say Najma Heptullah, Firoz Bas,
Amaraji, I'll come to you. One at a time. One at a time. No, not this way. Not this way. Amaraji, I'll come to you. Yes.
Let me speak.
Yeah.
Sayyid Shahnawaz, Sayyid Mukhtar Abbas Naqvi, he not given any space to the pasmanda Muslim. Aligarh Muslim University, Kishanganj not getting a single penny. 40% minority budget decrease. Madrasa modernization is still stopped in Uttar Pradesh.
One can go on a monologue. One can go on a monologue and talk about various issues on which you want to criticize the BJP. Rightly so. You are a political opponent. You should do that. My issue that I'm discussing here on Brass Tacks tonight is the Uniform Civil Code. So I will once again pose a question. Do you think that under the Hindu Code Bill or the Hindu personal law that exists at this point in time, which also governs the Sikhs, Buddhists and Jain, is there any traditional school of law which is prevalent right now, or perhaps modern secular laws have taken the place? There is no Hindu law per se which can be applicable to the entire country. For that matter, it's a secular set of civil laws which govern the lives of the majority community, which have been reformed for decades. So this entire argument that Hindu law is going to be imposed upon India is rather, I believe, an archaic and an absurd argument to make in the first place.
Ma'am, it is totally, you think there are 3,000 crore rupees, the Hindu undivided family are getting tax rebate. It is reality in this, it is reality. You go and implement what just now, Shiromani Akali Dal, what you heard from Punjab, they don't want a uniform civil code. It is Mr. Baba Saheb Ambedkar, Pandit Nehru, Sardar Patel, Maulana Azad, they were more wiser to the present politician, present Prime Minister or any of the cabinet minister. Why Mr. Ambedkar post this in directive principle? He did not put in that it will be imposed. It is up to the state to decide, and he told it is voluntary.
And the state is deciding.
You can't say that you can't, you have to eat. You must just 30 seconds. If you love dhokla, in Hyderabad there is biryani, in Bihar there is litti choka, in Maharashtra there is vada pav.
Are you really comparing that to a very serious issue like a uniform civil code? Ambar Zaidi, I want you to come in. Ambarji, I want you to come in.
Kathni and Karni is different.
No, but we can talk about Ambar Zaidi, do you want to come in? Yes, please go ahead. Make your point.
Of course, he's been how he's been opposing uniform civil code. That is absolutely shameful, and he's been repeatedly, saying the same thing on different channels. I want to start by saying one thing, that as Muslim women of this country, I strongly support the idea of uniform civil code, as our constitution of this country ensures equal right to everyone. Also, uniform civil code is mentioned in part 4th of the constitution, which says the state shall endeavor to secure the citizens uniform civil code throughout the territory of India. And he was also talking about that Baba Saheb Ambedkar, Nehruji and everybody, they all supported the idea of uniform civil code, and they wanted the implementation of uniform civil code in the country. When largest democracy of the world, and as Modi ji repeatedly says that India is the mother of democracy, and in a democracy we don't have at once our constitution ensures equal right, and on the other hand we have provision of personal laws, which is totally against the idea of equality and the right of Muslim women. So, and he also said one thing, that BJP is only using this tactic as a political vote bank or as a political gimmick. And also BJP doesn't give any Muslim a chance to be part of Rajya Sabha, Lok Sabha. I want to say one thing, that BJP nominated Ghulam Ali Khatana.
No, but Ambar, I know you're making all of those points, but I don't think they are crucial or central to the debate. I'm very clear in my head that today the moot idea is about a uniform civil code. It's a constitutional promise that has been made. There were peculiar circumstances that existed post-partition, and perhaps the constitutional framers wanted to take a cautious approach when it came to the reform of personal laws. And that is why at that point in time that step could not have been taken. But today perhaps our democracy is mature enough to take that step. I also want to bring in Mr. C.R. Keshwan into the discussion. Mr. Keshwan, the charge which is being made by your political opponents is that this is just a poll gimmick for you. The government is not serious on the idea of a uniform civil code. You are only using it because assembly elections are just around the corner, or in the run-up to the 2024 you want to polarize based on this issue. Respond to that argument, sir.
Good evening, Anusha ji, and to all my fellow panelists. Ever since the 22nd Law Commission had solicited views from recognized religious organizations and the public, you have seen a section of these doomsday prophets and these fearmongers, bandying this bogey of uniform civil code, and also this cliched, trope saying that uniform civil code, when implemented, will basically attack the minority interest and it will threaten India's unity. Nothing is farther from the truth. The Honorable Prime Minister rightly said this is a certain section of people with vested interest who are trying to provoke and mislead the people. And the Prime Minister very correctly said, he said, this implementing the Uniform Civil Code will strengthen our national unity by ushering in equality. What the Honorable Prime Minister said reflects the spirit of the Constitution, which was bequeathed to us by our founding fathers and mothers. And it also clearly reflects what the Supreme Court has been making in its observation over time. First thing, let us be very clear. This false, fake, binary which they are saying, that it is majority versus minority interest, is bunker. It is, this is completely false. What the Uniform Civil Code is about is safeguarding women's rights. It's ending discrimination. It's ensuring the vulnerable are protected and also ensuring national integration. When a just Uniform Civil Code is implemented, you will ensure that gender justice prevails over the parochialism against women. Empowerment prevails over the entitlement, and you will usher in equality over appeasement, which exists now. And they talked about attacking the Constitution and the founding fathers. Anusaji, I just want to say one thing. This is not a political agenda of a political party of us, the BJP or the government. This was bequeathed to us by the founding fathers. When you attack and say this is against the Constitution, you're insulting Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar, Sardar Patel, Maulana Azad, Rajendra Prasad ji, everybody, because they ensured that Article 44 existed. And like you rightly pointed out, this was in the immediate aftermath of partition, and it was a very fractious milieu. And they were sensitive about, the sentiments around, and they said at a later date it will be done. Now it's 73 years after a constitution has been given. It is the right time, and it will be done. And one more thing I want to say, they talked about the timing, saying that, whenever an election comes, let us look at the history and the Supreme Court's observations. If you say this, you're impugning the intent of the Supreme Court. In 1985, when the Shah Bano verdict was delivered by the Supreme Court, they said UCC is dead. In letter and spirit, it has to be implemented for national unity. Then in 2003, the John Vallamatam case, where it was about the succession rights, they very clearly said the Supreme Court said it's a matter of regret that UCC has not been implemented.
In fact, there are petitions at the Supreme Court of India which have challenged certain facets of the personal law, and a response has been sought by the centre as to when the centre is going to take steps to make Uniform Civil Code a reality. One second. Adilji, a quick response from you, and then I want to bring in Sumaya Rana and other panelists also into the discussion. Yes.
I want to know from the government and the BJP that they are talking about women right. Then Mr. Prime Minister or the Home Minister will go to Vrindavan and they will give the maintenance to the deserted women in the Vrindavan. There are more than 23 lakhs deserted women in the country. They will go to the Sabarmala Mantri women. They will allow the women to enter in the Sabarmala Mandir. The Supreme Court guideline is there. Supreme Court order is there that you have to allow the women in the Sabarmala temple.
No, one second. I am not going to complicate the debate. One second.
You want to give the women right? Then come to the Bilkis Banu.
1 second.
Give the right to the Bilkis Banu.
Adilji,
come and give justice to the Bilkis Banu.
Adilji, one second. See, the issue of widows in Vrindavan is a serious... the issues of widows in Vrindavan is a serious humanitarian crisis. There is no law in this country that permits the treatment of widows in that way and in that fashion. Secondly, the entry of women at the Sabrimala temple. The Supreme Court judgment is absolutely clear. It is unfortunate that it could not be implemented in the country, but the law of the land is clear. When we talk about a uniform civil code, the law per se in its substance is not clear. That whether customary practices that are violative of right to equality, should they exist in modern independent India or not? And I don't understand what is the allergy if we do away with these archaic practices. I want to bring in Sumaya Rana also into the discussion. Sumaya ji, no, one second. No, I have to bring in another. I'll come back to you, sir. I'll come back to you, sir. Sir, I'll come back to you. No, Sumaya Rana right now. Sumaya ji, I want to understand from you, ever since the Shah Bano judgment, which was handed down by the Supreme Court of India, and the eventual subversion of that judgment by the elected government of the day, the regressive within the community, the orthodoxy within the Muslim community has held the reform hostage. And somewhere we see that political parties mainstream this orthodoxy instead of pushing it back. And is your party guilty of that, ma'am? That's a direct question I want to know from you. Sumaya ji. Sumaya Rana, if I'm audible to you, ma'am?
I think it's
Sumaya ji, agar aapko meri awaaz aa rahi hai? All right, we'll just try and connect with Sumaya Rana. I'm not able to get in a word from her, but Amana Begum is also with us on the broadcast. Amana ji, I take the same question from you. The issue of Pasmanda Muslims has also been spoken of. And I always talk of the fact that when it comes to the reform of the Muslim personal law, it is actually the orthodoxy which has taken the controlling position and the driver's seat. The reform that should have come from within the community has not come. And in fact, any judicial or legislative intervention to reform these laws has been strongly resisted. Would you agree with that?
I absolutely agree with you, and I don't think it is only conservative segment of the community which has resisted any kind of reform. Unfortunately, the elite class and the intellectual class of the Muslim, they have not spoken against those kind of regressive practices. I think most of the time Muslim community fails when the people who supposed to show us the enlightened path, who supposed to show us the progressive values, have been failing us badly, because they in their personal life enjoy all kind of liberalism, but when it comes to the community, they keep saying that if any kind of reform will come, or if any kind of changes will come within the Muslim community, basically your faith is under the attack. And based on that entire narrative, they create an entire Muslims vote bank chunk for their own profit, because polarization do help them as well. All the time they want to fight with the I don't know how to put the word, like somehow
but Amana ji, you're an educated, well-spoken woman who understands law, who understands the politics. Why isn't that we hear more progressive voices from the community, the voices of women who have been fighting for reform, who have been working within the community? I know of a lot of enterprising Muslim women who have worked within the community to strive for equality. Why don't we hear these voices from within the community?
I believe that those kind of voices always have been there, but we used to not get proper platform. But somehow in this era, when social media is there and you can just speak for yourself, more and more such voices are getting spotted, and the mainstream media is also now bringing them on their platform. So that's why you are being able to hear them. But previously we existed all the time, but we didn't have access to those platforms where we can communicate.
All right. So you agree that perhaps there should be more liberal voices and progressive voices from within the community that should talk. Yasmin ji, I'm coming to you and I want to talk to you about these aspects. I remember having a discussion about the age of marriage within the Muslim personal law, the practice of polygamy and various other aspects. And I'm sure a lot of panelists would argue that it's only a very minuscule fraction of the population that practices, of the Muslim population, which is involved in these practices. And perhaps these practices are redundant in today's day and age. Adil ji, I want to come back to you. Is it not time that we do away with these practices legally? That the Muslim personal law should be codified, written on paper, polygamy or any kind of regressive practices should be legally outlawed in this country?
Ma'am, to be very honest, you go and National Family Survey is there. It is more child marriage in the non-Muslim community than to compare to the Muslim community. My leader, Barrister Asaduddin Owaisi Sahib, categorically in the Lok Sabha, more than 20 times he always raised the issue that give the scholarship to the girls from the Muslim community scholarship, but you are not giving scholarship. Now the people, he just want Mr. Modi, my humble request that give any Pasmanda Muslim lady to the Raj Sabha or to the ministry. If you want to help the Muslim Pasmanda women, why not you are giving the compensation to the divorcee women from the Muslim community? It is just a lip service from the Prime Minister. He is not giving a single scholarship to Muslim girls.
For your own
40%, 40%.
Can you please stop?
I am from that community. I am from the Surjapuri. I am from the Surjapuri community. I am from the Simanchal. Surjapuri reservation is pending before the central government.
On the Pasmanda issue, I'll come to you. I will allow you to make an interjection. Adilji, first make your point, then I'll go to the other panelist as well. Yes, finish your point.
Surjapuri community is a Pasmanda community. The reservation, it is pending before the honorable central government. I want honorable Prime Minister to just release the fund for the AMU Kishanganj, one of the most backward region of the Simanchal.
I have patiently heard all your.
Adilji, but he is not giving money to the.
I want to know the intellectual honesty of stalwarts like you who are very vocal from that community in mainstream politics. I'm asking you a very straightforward question irrespective of Prime Minister Modi, irrespective of BJP, irrespective of what political parties are doing. Shouldn't in this country it should be deemed illegal if you marry more than once? If the girl is underage and she is being allowed to be married under any kind of customary practices. Child marriage is illegal in this country. It has been outlawed. It still happens. That's an unfortunate situation. But a law already exists that makes child marriage as an offense. That's the argument at which I am right now. Shouldn't we have a law that makes customary practices of child law an offense, even in Muslim personal law? A straight question to you.
Ma'am, it is clear that in Muslim community it is very low rate of child marriage in compared to the other community. I request you go and do the take out the sample survey from the government of India. It is from
मैं तो आपके बात को मानने के लिए तैयार हूँ कि ऐसा ही है.
I never interrupted in anybody. It's not good.
One second, one at a time. Adilji, finish your argument. Then Amna ji, I'm coming to you. 30 seconds to him, then I'll come to you. आप बोलिए सर, बोलिए अपनी बात पूरी करिए, उनको भी उनकी बात बोलने का पूरा समय दिया जाए. बोलिए.
I just want to say this.
One second. Yes, finish your point. Adilji, finish your point. 30 seconds, please finish your point.
Health Minister, मैम लेट मी स्पीक. मैम, हेल्थ मिनिस्ट्री का सर्वे है कि मुस्लिम बच्चियों में सबसे कम चाइल्ड मैरिज है, जबकि दूसरे कम्युनिटी का हमने हमेशा, आप इसीलिए तो डिमांड रहे हैं, स्कॉलरशिप मांग रहे हैं.
आपने मेरे सवाल का जवाब नहीं दिया.
शिक्षा दीजिए तब ना
आपने मेरे सवाल का जवाब नहीं दिया. अमाना बेगम प्लीज कम इन.
कानून थोपिए ना.
अमाना बेगम अंसारी. Adil ji, आपने अपनी बात बोल दी.
I want to tell कि Adil ji has been speaking for very long for the Pashmanda Muslim community. He should ask why OSC has supported the fatwa against Pashmanda Muslim reservation in the Telangana. So that time we were not Pashmanda Muslim. That time they were not very concerned about our upliftment. But suddenly they are. Somehow they have been, I don't know how they found a newfound love for the Pashmanda Muslim. Second, there is a difference between social reformation and legal reformation.
No, please let him finish a point. I have to go to other guests as well. Yes.
Yeah. We need legal reformation, legal framework where women should get equal treatment. Third thing, whenever we talk about the diversity and culture, make it very clear that we cannot promote subjugation of women under the garb of diversity and culture.
All right.
That's
all right.
3 points.
No, and that's exactly the point that I was making, that legally we need these reforms. Sumaya Rana and Yasmin Farooqi are back with us. No, I need to bring in other guests as well, sir. One second. Sumaya Rana ji, I want to come to you and I want to understand from you. The question that I asked you earlier, we had a problem with your line. बहुत सारे ऐसे इंस्टेंसेस रहे हैं हिंदुस्तान के इतिहास में, खासकर जब सुप्रीम कोर्ट का जजमेंट देखा जाए शाह बानो के समय, जिस तरह से एक प्रोग्रेसिव स्टैंड था जो सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने लिया था और उस समय की सरकार ने एक फैसला लाया, एक कानून लाया जिससे उस पूरे फैसले को उल्टा कर दिया गया. कहीं ना कहीं जो रूढ़िवादी सोच है मुस्लिम समाज में, उसको राजनीतिक रूप से बढ़ावा दिया गया है. और इसीलिए कम्युनिटी में रिफॉर्म नहीं हुआ है। इस पूरे तर्क को आप किस तरह से देखती हैं? सुमैया जी।
जी मैं आप पे ही आ रही हूँ। देखिए, मुस्लिम समाज को जो आप कह रही हैं रूढ़िवादी सोच कुछ नहीं होती है। इस्लाम में एक ऐसा मज़हब है जिसकी एक शरीयत है और उस शरीयत पे सबको फॉलो करना है। जो मुसलमान है उसको आप रूढ़िवादी कह दिए, कट्टरपंथी कह दीजिए या जो भी कह दीजिए। मसलन इस्लाम में है कि महिलाओं को ढक कर के बाहर निकलना है, अपने आप को ऐसे कपड़े पहन के नहीं निकलने की इजाज़त है कि जिसमें लोग आपकी तरफ अट्रैक्ट हो या गलत नज़रों से देखें। तो ये एक शरीयत का एक लॉ है, आप उसको फॉलो करते हैं वेल एंड गुड, नहीं करते हैं तो इट्स अप टू यू। कोई वहां पे जोर जबरदस्ती नहीं है, कोई कोड़ा लेके और हंटर लेके आपको नहीं कहेगा कि यू हैव टू वेयर बुर्का या यू हैव टू डू अ वेल, कुछ ऐसा कुछ भी नहीं है, कोई लॉ नहीं है। लेकिन जब बात होती है यूनिफॉर्म सिविल कोड की, मैं एक बात फिर से दोहराना चाहूंगी, पिछली बहुत बार से मैं याद दिलाना चाह रही हूँ भारतीय जनता पार्टी को कि जो मुस्लिम महिलाओं के हक की बात करती हो, जो मुस्लिम महिलाओं को 3 तलाक और यूनिफॉर्म सिविल कोड लाके पॉलीगैमी से निजात दिलाने की बात करते हो, उन्हीं भारतीय जनता पार्टी के हमारे प्रदेश के मुख्यमंत्री ने कहा था जब CA/NRC का प्रोटेस्ट कर रही थी मुस्लिम महिलाएं सड़कों पे बैठ के ठंड में, उस वक्त कहा था कि मुस्लिम महिलाओं को चौराहों पर बिठा दिया है उनके मर्दों ने। ये लैंग्वेज है मुस्लिम महिलाओं के लिए एक भारतीय जनता पार्टी के मुख्यमंत्री की। शर्म आती है इस तरीके के अपमानजनक शब्द। मुस्लिम महिलाएं सही, लेकिन देश की महिलाएं हैं जिनके लिए इस तरह के अपशब्द इस्तेमाल किए जाते हैं। और ये भारतीय जनता पार्टी का एक नाटक है। यूनिफॉर्म सिविल कोड, उनको मालूम है कि हम कहां पर चोट करेंगे और कहां से आवाज आएगी, और उसके बाद क्योंकि चुनाव करीब है, ये एक तरीके का प्रोपेगेंडा है। क्या मैं पूछना चाहती हूँ, यूनिफॉर्म सिविल कोड लागू होने के बाद जो हाथरस में बेटी के साथ हुआ था, दलित बेटी के साथ, वो नहीं होगा। जो रायबरेली में हुआ था वो नहीं होगा। जो आजमगढ़ में बच्ची के साथ हुआ था कि वहां पर थाने में उसके साथ रेप होता है, वो नहीं होगा।
यास्मीन फारूकी जी भी one second. Can I please have the BJP? Can I please have the BJP right now? Yes, Mr. Keswan. Yes.
I need uninterrupted time.
We also have Yasmin ji who's been very patiently waiting, but first I want a response from the BJP. Yeah.
AIMIM, just to call out his bluff. First thing is the minority budget has been increased by the BJP government many times and moderated, and the number of scholarship, please go and check and don't lie on national television, has been increased. Please remember that the great son of India, Abdul Kalam ji, was nominated by the NDA government for president, and he had a glorious time, and he's an inspiration for the youth. So don't talk about BJP not doing anything for the Muslims. They made a non-politician, we made a non-politician like Abdul Kalam ji the president. Now coming back to this, they were again talking about, you should please tell these fearmongers and these people are trying to create division. In the judgment of the 2015 ABC versus state, the Supreme Court says, please, this is important, it says UCC remains an unaddressed constitutional expectations. We urge the government to take a decision on UCC to end the confusion over personal laws applicable to different communities. This is the Supreme Court. So this has been pretty much the observation and direction of the Supreme Court. And what is a secular country? These people are talking about secularism, where there is a clear separation between church and state. And in India, it's clear separation between religion and state. So how can you have a constitution where the laws will be based on religion? Let me remind you of what Ambedkar said in terms of religion and laws. He said, I quote, I personally do not understand why religion should be given this vast, expansive jurisdiction so as to cover the whole of life and prevent the legislature from encroaching. After all, what are we having liberty for? We are having this liberty to reform our social system full of iniquities and discrimination, which conflict with our fundamental rights.
You've made your point. I want to bring in Yasmin Farooqi ji as well. One second. Can I bring in Yasmin Farooqi ji into the discussion? Yasmin ji, first of all, thank you for patiently listening to the discussion that we were having so far. You're one person who has worked within the community. You have worked within the community. We've spoken about multiple issues in the past as well. Politics aside, ma'am, shouldn't, after so many years, more than 7 decades after independence, we should have a common civil code under which polygamy, any kind of marriages which are under 18, any kind of regressive practices which are violative of right of women to equality under Indian Constitution, all of them should be outlawed. And I want to make one more point before you respond, ma'am. that it's one thing for the practice to be legally outlawed and it's another thing for it to be a social reality. Well, dowry is outlawed in this country. Dowry still exists. Child marriage is outlawed in this country. It still exists. But the law has taken that position. In the case of Muslim personal law, that position has not been taken. Yasmin ji, आपका मत चाहूंगी मैं इस पे.
थैंक यू सो मच. आपने मेरी खामोशी को सराहा. पहली बात तो मुस्लिम पर्सनल लॉ बोर्ड के बिहाफ पे मेरा कोई बात नहीं होती है. मैं पर्सनल बात समझ लीजिए या एक पॉलिटिकल उसकी नेशनल जनरल सेक्रेटरी हूँ STPI की. मैं एक सिंपल बात आपसे करना चाहती हूँ और इन सब से करना चाहती हूँ कि हमारा कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन है और कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में किसी भी चीज़ को चेंज करने के लिए एक तरीक़ा है. पहली बात तो ये है जो मैं आपसे कहना चाहूँगी कि हमें ये पहली बात 3 चीज़ें हमें कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में दी गई हैं. एक ऐसा कानून है कि जो राज्य बनाएगा, दूसरा वो कानून है जो सेंटर से बनेगा, तीसरा वो कानून है जो कि दोनों मिलके बनाएंगे. अब पहली बात तो आप डिक्लेयर कर रहे हैं इस बात को कि हम तो कॉमन सिविल कोड लाएंगे. आप ऐसे कैसे बोल सकते हो? आप उन सीधे प्रोसीजर से पहले गुजरोगे. इसे कहते हैं गैस लाइट करना. कि आपने एक गैस लाइट दी है मुस्लिम्स को कि ये आपके लिए, ये जबकि आपके पास एक बहुत लेंदी मामला है जिसे मैं बात मजहब पे नहीं करती हूँ. देखिए ना, मैं उस धर्म पे बात करती हूँ. बहुत सारे हिंदू लॉ में चेंजेस आए हैं, मैं बिल्कुल इस बात को मानती हूँ. आप मुझे एक छोटे से बात पे मैं बात करना चाहूँगी कि हिंदू लॉ में बेटियों को बराबर का हक दिया गया है अब कानून ने, जो कि पहले नहीं था. आप एक देखिए, डॉक्टर से जब एक डॉक्टर ने दवा दी है और वो अगर अच्छी तरह सही चली गई है और वो इलाज सही हो गया है तो हम दूसरा दवा देते हैं. आपने वो दवा दी, क्या आपने एनालिसिस किया कि पूरा बेटियों को हक मिला है आधा? क्योंकि एक चीज आपने वसीयत रख दी उसमें, और उस वसीयत के तहत क्या बच्चियों को, उन बेटियों को हिंदू लॉ में, क्रिश्चियन लॉ में बराबर का हक मिल रहा है. मैं जबकि मुस्लिम लॉ में तो 1/4 मिल रहा है शुरू से, चाहे वो दे रहे हैं नहीं दे रहे हैं. देखिए, बात होती है कानून बनाने और लागू करने की. आप खाप पंचायत की बात कर लो, वो आप
यास्मीन जी, एक इंटरजेक्शन. यास्मीन जी, आपने वन सेकंड. यास्मीन जी, एक सवाल है मेरा आपसे. आपने बोला एक बात होती है कानून बनाने की, दूसरा लागू करने की. एक सेकंड आदिल जी. जहां तक मुस्लिम पर्सनल लॉ की बात है यास्मीन जी, कानून बनाया भी नहीं गया है. आप बिल्कुल ठीक कह रही हैं कि जहां तक बेटियों के बराबर के अधिकार की बात है, हिंदू पर्सनल लॉ की बात है, वहां पे बहुत बाद में ये परिवर्तन, ही बहुत बाद में चेंज आया. लेकिन ये चेंज आया, कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनली आया और आगे भी इसके लिए प्रयास होंगे. इसी तरह के प्रयास मुस्लिम पर्सनल लॉ में भी होनी चाहिए. उससे हमें कोई भी रुकावट या कोई भी परेशानी क्यों हो? यास्मीन जी,
अरे तो आप, हाँ, ऑलरेडी कानून है, बीवी का हिस्सा, बेटी का हिस्सा, सब कुछ कानून ऑलरेडी है. देखिए, जहां तक विरासत की बात करते हैं, आप अगर आगे आते हैं 4 बीवियों की, 3 बीवियों की, आजकल मर्डर जो हो रहे हैं वो ज्यादातर लिव इन रिलेशनशिप पे हो रहे हैं, कोई बीवियों को नहीं मार रहा. और आप पहले एनालिसिस करो ना बैठ के कितने मुस्लिम.
यास्मीन जी, मैं बस एक बात बोलूंगी, and I want to cut across to AIMIM and one second, Adil ji, एक second, one second. There was a stand that the All India Muslim Personal Law Board had taken in the Supreme Court. यास्मीन जी, आपको भी याद दिलाऊंगी, जब 3 तलाक का मुद्दा चल रहा था, उनने सुप्रीम कोर्ट पे एफिडेविट पे कहा था that Muslim men will kill their wives if triple talaq does not exist. That was the archaic position that was taken in the Supreme Court of India on an affidavit. I have last few minutes on the show, Mr. C.R. Keswan, and then I want to bring in AIMIM and other guests as well. Mr. Keswan first.
Mr. I'm really surprised. While the
मेरी बात आपने पूरी नहीं सुनी है.
आपके पास वापस आ रही हूँ यास्मीन जी, आपके पास वापस आ रही हूँ.
Ma'am, let me kindly complete.
Yes.
There are so many gray areas in the prevailing personal laws that is being exploited against women of every religion. It's just not Muslims. When you see the Supreme Court judgments on Walamaton, or even as recent as Uniform Civil Code, though it's about all religions. Today, a Christian woman, she has to wait for more time for divorce than anybody else. Adoption rights are different for Hindus, but adoption rights for other religions, for the children who have been adopted, they don't have rights in other religions. So it's just not about one religion like these people are trying
all
to
religions, yes, all religions are going to be.
Yeah, so please let us understand that. The second most important thing we need to know is, see, when triple talaq happened, it was empowering the Muslim woman. And how long?
I have one second. One at a time. One at a time. Yasmin ji.
मैं आपसे उसकी बात नहीं कर रही।
देखिए आप थोड़ा मुझे बोलने दीजिए, बात कीजिए जो भी आप।
यास्मीन जी एक मिनट मैं आपके पास वापस आ रही हूँ।
मत बोलिए प्लीज।
Sir, 30 seconds to you, then I have to bring another guest as well. 30 seconds.
All I'm saying is this is not about the false binary narrative of majority minority religion, one religion. This is about equality for all.
You made your point.
And gender justice rights.
Yasmin ji, 30 seconds to you, then I have to bring another guest.
Let me complete with what Ambedkar ji said. Ambedkar ji said that when the loyalty to a nation comes, everything else, even the slightest doubt when it comes to the loyalty of a nation, loyalty to religion, loyalty to language,
it
loyalty
has to be the nation and the constitution first. Can I have Yasmin Farooqi? Yasmin ji, एक मिनट फिर मैं दूसरे गेस्ट पर भी जाना चाहूंगी। यास्मीन जी अपनी बात पूरी करिए।
देखिए, मैं सिर्फ एक ही बात कहना चाहती हूँ कि किसी भी चीज को चेंज करने के लिए आप एकदम से नहीं कह सकते कि हम ये चेंज लाएंगे। उसका एक प्रोसीजर है, उसका एक वो पूरी राज्य कैसे चलता है। आज अमेरिका में 50 स्टेट हैं और उन सब के संविधान अलग अलग हैं। यहाँ धर्म से नहीं चलती हैं चीजें, यहाँ कौन लोग किस तरह रहते हैं और रहना चाहते हैं उससे चीज चलती है, कानून उससे चलता है। आप बात अलग तरीके की करने लगते हैं।
समय की थोड़ी सी कमी है। आदिल हसन, आप ऐलान करते हैं कि हम बदलाव। आदिल जी आपके पास भी आऊंगी, अंबर जी आपके पास आऊंगी। आदिल हसन प्लीज मेक योर पॉइंट।
मैम अभी उन्होंने कहा, अभी तेलंगाना में, आंध्रा में जो मुस्लिम रिजर्वेशन बैकवर्ड मुस्लिम को मिला, वो बैरिस्टर असदुद्दीन ओवैसी साहब, अकबर ओवैसी साहब की कोशिश से 1 लाख बच्चियों को हम फ्री में किट देते हैं, स्कूल किट देते हैं, 18,000 बच्चे को फ्री पढ़ाते हैं। आपको नहीं पता है? आप चलिए वहां तेलंगाना, आपको नहीं पता है।
I have lost 1 minute on the show. Can I now have Amber Zaidi? Can I have a closing comment from you?
फ्री में पढ़ाई होती है।
One at a time.
अकबर साहब के
Can I have Amber Zaidi? Amber Zaidi, closing comments from you, please. Go ahead.
Yes, Anusha, I want to say one thing that everybody is saying, including starting from Asaduddin Owaisi to Yasmin Farooqi, everybody is saying that India is a diverse nation and we should have personal laws based on those primitive laws based on religion and so on. So, and he also on Tuesday, Asaduddin Owaisi slammed Prime Minister Modi, saying India's PM, he doesn't understand Article 29, which is which ensures the interest of minorities, culture, and everything. So here I want to say that if UCC comes, nothing is going to happen to our diversity. We are going to be as diverse as ever.
And I want to reiterate that point that with UCC, all religions are going to be affected, not just one religion. Amana Begum Ansari, last 30 seconds to you. Make your point as I close the debate, please. Amana Begum Ansari.
Criminal code, and nobody talks about why we don't have a Sharia when it comes to the criminal procedure.
Yes.
Why we don't have the law. अगर कोई चोरी करता है तो उसके हाथ काट दिए जाते हैं. It's only when it comes to the women right we talk about the diversity, culture, Muslims, Islam, because we want to subjugate our women and want to keep them second-class citizens. That's my.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us on the broadcast. And like the last has not been said, when it comes to the Uniform Civil Code, this debate is also far from over, but because of the paucity of time, I thank all of you for joining us on the broadcast. The Law Commission is looking at it. If you have any view, you can share it with the Law Commission on their website. UCC, a constitutional promise that should be a reality at some point. We're slipping into a very short break. Up next, the political storm continues over Rahul Gandhi's US visit. After a Congress leader registers an FIR against BJP's Amit Malviya, the Saffron Party has hit back. More on the other side. Stay tuned.
Even a Mughal government would have done what the DMK government is doing, at least they will have some shame that they are doing this to the Hindus. But these people can do anything against the Hindus because they also say they are Hindus.
Is this specifically against Hindus, or is it against the Dikshitars who are Brahmins?
It is against the Hindu tradition, Hindu values, and it is administered by Brahmins. This temple is administered, they are not only Brahmins, they are a very small section of the Brahmins.
So what is the
They
way
are not
forward?
part of even the larger Brahmin community.
What is the way forward? Because
It
if
is
there
only
is no
they
uproar
are
among the
law-abiding
Hindu
people,
community.
They have to seek recourse only under law.
But
There is no other way. Otherwise, they are not the people who will go to the streets.
But Professor Gurumurthy, temples are the only ones that come under state control as religious institutions. Hindus are majority population in this country.
No, temples do not come under the government. The temples are supposed to be managed well, and the responsibility is of the government to ensure. But they cannot control or take over the temple. They have done it repeatedly. There are temples which are for 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, only under the political system. Whereas it should be only an intervention. So it has now become, they have established a government department for this. Not to supervise, but to manage, to own, to control. The entire HRNC department is against the scheme of the constitution.
But how do you dismantle this? Because this is not unique only to Tamil Nadu. It is a pan-India issue.
No. In all over India it is there, but there is a system. Even in a communist state like Kerala, there is a system of governance. In Andhra, there is a system of governance. There is participation of the people. Because the DMK movement, they said, Sriranganathanayum, Thillai Nadarajanayum, Beerangi Vaithu Thagarthum Naal Ennalo. When will we mortar, bomb and blast these two temples had been the slogan of the Dravidian ideology. So, all other states have a certain control, regulation of the temple. But nobody said these deities should be blasted. Your intention is that.
But Professor Gurumurthy, the situation right now is that these Dikshitars believe that the control is slipping. The HRNC department tomorrow can take control. Unless there is urgent representation or intervention by the top court.
Actually, whatever you may say, the government has the police power. The government can do anything. But whether the government is doing the right thing or not, again, you have to go only to the court.
But are you willing to help this team?
Welcome back, and the political war continues over Rahul Gandhi's visit to the United States and his stinging remarks against the Modi government. After Amit Malviya posted a video that had animated depictions of people who want to stop Modi at any cost, quote-unquote, featuring certain versions of Rahul Gandhi's speeches, the BJP's IT cell head has been slapped with an FIR. But the BJP has now put all the weight behind him. Union Minister Smriti Irani accused Rahul Gandhi of joining hands with anti-India forces, claiming that the co-founder of Hindus for Human Rights, Sunita Vishwanath, who was seen with Rahul Gandhi, is part of the wider Jamaat ISI nexus in the West, with links to George Soros of the Open Society Foundation, a vocal critic of the Modi government. But as the political war has reignited, the question remains, is this more than political mudslinging? Are there actual substantial charges which the BJP has put, or this is mere conjecture? We talk about all of this on Brass Tacks tonight.
Tell me which part of the FIR that has been lodged against Mr. Malviya is with malified intent. Who is the creator of the video? Who is the one who is spreading the video? Who is getting the video to have enough traction on social media? Who is spreading these lies?
If there is anyone responsible to play with truth, to play with facts, to play with people's images, to play with the country's reputation, it's the IT cell of the BJP.
आपातकाल की याद निश्चित ताजा करते हुए गांधी खानदान ने पुनः देश को ये प्रमाण दिया है, चाहे राज्य में उनके पास सत्ता है, उस सच को दबाने के लिए किस हद तक जा सकते हैं।
Well, joining us on the broadcast is Dr. Shama Mohammed, the national spokesperson for the Congress Party. Ms. Sanju Verma, the national spokesperson of the BJP, is also joining us on the broadcast. Good evening to both of you. Sanjay ji, I'll come to you first. To make political allegations against a political opponent is well understood. But then to stretch the argument and argue that somebody like Rahul Gandhi is hobnobbing with anti-India forces, if it is substantiated, you should take legal action against him. And if it's not, it's defamatory.
You know, Anusha, let me clear the air on this. The fact that Rahul Gandhi, particularly his recent US visit, and I'll come to more on him later, has been either organized most of his events in US, either the events were organized, sponsored, co-sponsored or financed by organizations which have not only links to radical Islamist terror organizations, but some of the organizations which sponsored Rahul Gandhi's June 4th event in New York are organizations which have been designated as specially designated global terror organizations by no less than the United States. And I'll quickly give you an example. Rahul Gandhi's June 4th event in New York was sponsored and co-sponsored by the Indian American Muslim Council, by the Indian Society of North America, by the Indian Council of North America, by the Muslim Council of Greater Princeton, by the Indian Medical Association of North America, and the Muslim Council of New Jersey. And please now listen to me very carefully, Anusha, because I'm not throwing fiction at your viewers. I'm stating hard facts, which expose Rahul Gandhi and his ilk in no uncertain terms. All these organizations that I mentioned 30 seconds back have links to the Al-Khidmat Foundation, to Sayyid Salahuddin and the Hizbul Mujahideen, which are already designated as global terror organizations, to Texas-based Holy Land Foundation, which has been banned for terror activities in the US. And please, let me finish. All these organizations also have links to the Lashkar-e-Taiba, to the Hamas,
then
and
all
to
of
the
these
Al-Mustafa Welfare Trust.
Then Sanjay ji, all these organizations should be banned. I want to cut across to Dr. Shama Mohammed as well. Dr. Shama Mohammed, please go ahead, make your point.
You know, Sanju Verma came out with certain allegations. Now, you can't just come out like this with allegations without any sort of evidence. Now, the Indian Overseas Congress is the one which organizes these events for Rahul Gandhi ji. A lot of people come for these events, all right? And when there are certain important, pertinent issues in this country, you want to divert and distract. That is what is the issue. Who is against India? Amit Shah and Narendra Modi. Manipur is burning for the last 55 days. Mr. Modi comes back from his trip. He goes to inaugurate a new train in Madhya Pradesh. But he does not step into Manipur. Why? Kuki United Liberation Front, militant organization, chairperson says that he helped Amit Shah, Ram Madhav, and Himanta Biswa Sarma to win elections. So remember, a militant organization has helped Amit Shah, Ram Madhav, Himanta Biswa Sarma to win elections in Manipur in 2017, 19, and 22. Now, why is the NIA not investigating these claims of it? I mean, this is a militant organization against India. But of course, there is nothing on it. And when you want to divert and distract from the real issue, which is Manipur, which is burning, price rise. What is the price of tomato today? 125. And then you have a press conference from the Women and Child Affairs Minister, Smriti Irani, whose duty is what? She's the Women and Child Affairs Minister. But she only does press conference on Rahul Gandhi. When women are medalists, gold medalists, bronze medalists, Olympic medalists.
I'll come back to the
One second. Price of tomatoes is not the topic of the debate.
Yes.
This woman, Smriti Irani, did not say one word. She did not even go to them.
Dr. Shama Mohammed, I take your point.
What is the ministry
I take your point. I don't want to take your point. One second.
This woman,
Sanju Verma. Yes. One at a time. Dr. Shama Mohammed, please conclude your argument. One at a time. Dr. Shama Mohammed, please conclude.
Typical madrasa educated rabbit bigot.
Sanju ji, no personal comments, please. Sanju ji, no personal comments, please. No. Sanju ji, please, no personal comments. comments. That's not something I appreciate on the broadcast. She is the national spokesperson of the Congress Party.
No,
That's the
she has
capacity.
used words like this.
I'll come to you and you can respond. You can respond to that, ma'am. Ma'am, you can respond to that. You can come and respond to that. All right.
This woman, Smriti Irani, is that how you address a cabinet minister?
One second. One second. Can we have? No. One second. Dr. Shama Mohammed, finish your argument in 30 seconds and then I'll bring in BJP.
And somebody like Amit Malviya, the fake news factory head, who has been pulled down by Twitter itself, not by the Congress party saying this is fake news. And they have the audacity to make more fake news about Rahul Gandhi.
You made your point. Can I have Sanju Verma back, please? Can I have Sanju Verma back, please?
Prime Minister of
Sanju,
India,
you'll have the equal time to respond. Can I have your response, please? Sanju Verma, please. Sanju Verma, please. Sanju Verma, please. Sanju Verma, please go ahead.
Not yet resigned.
Dr. Shama Mohammed, please listen to the other panelists. Dr. Shama Mohammed, please listen to the other panelists. Sanju Verma, please go ahead. Yes.
Anusha, you know I have tremendous respect for you and I did not want to make this personal. But if somebody from the Congress addresses Smriti Irani as this woman and says Amit Shah is being financed by militants, I think she needs to go and visit a shrink. And I repeat, Shama Mohammed is a rabid bigot. Now I will come to the key points. Tell me one thing, Anusha. George Soros has in public domain said that he wants to pull down a democratically elected government in India. Who was part of Rahul Gandhi's Bharat Jodo Yatra, or should I call it Bharat Todo Yatra? It was Salil Shetty, Vice President of the Open Society Foundation, which is part of George Soros's business empire, who has been repeatedly supporting Shaheen Bagh militants like Umar Khalid. It is Harsh Mandar. Harsh Mandar was a part of Sonia Gandhi's National Advisory Council and is a close confidant of George Soros, who has been supporting Rahul Gandhi abroad. It is Sunita Vishwanath. Sunita Vishwanath is a part of the George Soros Foundation and was a part of Rahul Gandhi's
I have limited time on the broadcast. I want to give the Congress party also the time to respond. Dr. Shama
Mohammed, do you think Kashmir is a part of India or not? George Soros has openly said Kashmir is not a part of India.
Sanjuji, please let her respond. Dr.
George
Shama
Soros has clearly said Kashmir is not a part of India. And Rahul Gandhi
Dr. Shama Mohammed, please. Dr. Shama Mohammed, please. Dr. Shama Mohammed. Can I please have Dr. Shama Mohammed, please? Dr. Shama Mohammed, please. Yes, go ahead. Dr.
So,
Shama
Umar
Mohammed.
Khalid is in prison. Nobody has said he's a militant. There's a case going on, but she's already pronounced him as a militant just because he's a Muslim. When a question was asked to Prime Minister Narendra Modi in America, he said that this is a democracy and all democratic values are valued in this country. So I remember when the journalist asked a question to him and that journalist was trolled, the White House has come down heavily. Now, tomorrow, this lady who is there, the BJP spokesperson, would say when Barack Obama is trying to break India, that's what she would say. That is what she is about. No. So let's talk, Sanju Verma. Let us understand that after robbing this country out of 13,000 crores, we saw Nirav Modi standing just next to Mr. Narendra Modi. Let's not forget in Davos. What is your answer for that? We know that whoever has to stand with Mr. Modi needs to get permission from everyone.
Yes,
so
I have last 1 minute on the show. Dr. Shama Mohammed, I need to take a response from the BJP as I wrap the debate.
But she's not, so what is the meaning of that?
Sanju Verma, response from you, 30 seconds. Please go ahead. Sanju Verma, please go ahead.
Now I need my time. I want to tell Shama Mohammed, she was talking about Manipur. Do you remember the 1984 genocide of the Sikh community and what did Rahul Gandhi's father Rajiv Gandhi say? जब एक बड़ा पेड़ गिरता है तो धरती थोड़ी हिलती है. And Anusha, it was thank God that the Narendra Modi government came to power in 2014. We set up a SIT and thankfully after that Sajjan Kumar, one of the perpetrators of the Sikh genocide, is today cooling his heels behind the prison bars. I want to ask Rahul Gandhi, why are you flirting with George Soros, who has openly threatened India's democratic ethos?
That's all the time.
Why is it that Rahul Gandhi tells Europe and America that they should intervene in India?
That's all the time I have, unfortunately. Sanju Verma, Dr. Shama Mohammed, it's always a pleasure to have both of you on the broadcast. Thank you so much for joining us. Expect more of these political fireworks as we inch closer to the election season. It's a wrap on Brass Tacks. Thank you for watching.
worshippers model. It is a completely free religion. We were cheated into believing that this government will do that, but the government had actually turned against. They are very top people who occupied highest positions in this country. I don't want to mention their names and shame them.
Professor Gurumurthy, thank you for your time. You've been very candid. Let us hope that this voice is taken note of and they have the ability to seek legal recourse and also move for an urgent hearing in the top court, because the top court is the one that is supposed to be monitoring the management and how things are being conducted at the
I agree. That is the only way.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very, very much. S. Gurumurthy ji, editor Tughlaq is with us. Namaste and Jai Hind, sir. Thank you for your time.
Namaskar.
Namaskaram. How would you see the Chidambaram temple issue? Your point of view, sir.
I think the government is either foolish or illiterate, or it is actually autocratic. Because this is the only temple which has been kept out of the reach of the HR&C department by the Supreme Court. Actually, it is a war against the Supreme Court. I don't know who advises the government. Obviously, the government has committed a huge, what I can say, not only fault, I think they have taken the Hindu bhaktas for granted. You see, there is nothing like the devotees demanding anything. The devotees will always like to see the Lord, but there is some discipline of the whole samskaras of the temple that during a particular period you don't allow people to come into a podium. It's a small podium, it's not a large podium. Hundreds of people can't stand there. Only some 20-30 people can stand. And it is only those who are actually performing the rituals who can be there. And thousands and thousands of devotees come there. All of them would like to climb. Obviously, they will be told in this period you can't climb. In other period, they will be allowed in queue or something. This is a normal thing. This has been going on for generations. It is not a rule which was framed day before yesterday. But to make this as some kind of violation of the rights of the devotees, to seek to invade the temple, and HR&C department has no locus in the temple, appointing an executive officer and giving the executive officer police powers, and in police she goes and climbs and sits there. I think it is atrocious. I mean, it is only because it is not only Hindus who are weak in Tamil Nadu. If it were any other community.
Hello, Namaskar. This is First Post and you're watching Vantage with me, Palki Sharma. It's the middle of the week, but Indian markets are on a high. Stocks have broken records. And this story is much bigger than the numbers that you see. So tonight we'll tell you about the larger trend. We'll discuss what's driving it. Also looking at China, where President Xi is now courting global investors as his local governments have been caught in a scam worth billions. They were faking land deals. We'll tell you why. In Sweden, tensions are rising as police have given permission to burn a Quran outside a mosque. This permission has been given to protesters. In France, police killed a teenager and it has led to a riot. In South Korea, the population has woken up 1 or 2 years younger. They've changed the way they calculate their age. It's quite an interesting story. And we'll also tell you about a new miracle weight loss drug that has disrupted the market. Also how big the market is. The numbers are mind-blowing. The headlines first. A Russian missile strikes a popular restaurant in eastern Ukraine. At least 10 people dead, including children, in the attack in Kramatorsk. But Kremlin says it only hit military targets. At least 10 people killed in Myanmar in an airstrike by the military. Reports claim a military jet dropped 3 bombs on a village in the Sagaing region. The United Nations says the military has carried out more than 300 airstrikes in the last year. The junta is struggling to crush resistance since the coup in 2021. Donald Trump sues E. Jean Carroll for defamation. The former US president claims she falsely accused him of rape. Last month, a jury had ruled that Trump had sexually abused Carroll in the 1990s and awarded her $5 million in damages. Setback for Jair Bolsonaro in his abuse of power trial. 1 out of the 7 judges has voted to bar the former Brazilian president from running in the 2026 election. The other judges will deliver their rulings later this week. Bolsonaro faces an 8-year ban on running for public office if found guilty. Climate activists disrupt the second Ashes test at Lord's. Just Stop Oil protesters interrupt play as they ran onto the field. English wicketkeeper Johnny Bairstow carries a protester off the ground. And Bayern Munich won't renew their sponsorship with Qatar Airways. It is Germany's biggest club and it has faced criticism for its ties over alleged human rights issues, particularly over the 2022 World Cup. Tonight we begin with the Indian stock market. It's seeing an extraordinary surge. Both Sensex and Nifty touched record highs today. The Sensex breached the 64,000 mark. The Nifty crossed the 19,000 mark. Both indices stabilized afterwards. But Indian stocks are a hot commodity. In fact, India now has the world's 4th most valuable equity market. Right behind countries like the US, China and Japan, India stands 4th. And tonight's lead is not about these daily trends. Tonight, we want to talk about the incredible bull run of Indian markets. Did you know this? Indian markets have delivered the best returns for the longest time in the world. Look at this chart. It has every key stock market benchmark of significance: the Dow Jones, Nikkei, S&P 500, FTSE 100, the Shanghai Composite, the so-called best indices in the world, operating in some of the world's biggest economies. Look at their performance. At best, they've delivered a positive return for 5 consecutive years, meaning investors have earned a profit for 5 straight years in these markets. Some markets have performed better for 6 years. That's better than most, but not the best. Guess where the Indian markets stand? Right at the top of this chart. For 8 straight years, Indian markets have been generating a positive return. For 8 years, they've delivered a profit. Indian markets are leading the world. They've performed the best in more than 2 decades. India has 2 key benchmarks, the Sensex and the Nifty. The Sensex tracks the top 30 companies in the country, the Nifty the top 50 companies. In the past 3 months, Sensex has risen by 10% and Nifty has jumped by 11%. Now let's compare this with the rest. In the last 3 months, UK's FTSE 100 rose by just 0.8%. France's CAC 40 by 2.9%. Pan-European Stocks Europe 600 index by 2.9% again. And this index tracks Europe's 600 companies, top 600 companies in 17 countries. What about the US? The S&P 500 has gained 10%. These are America's top 500 companies. Collectively, they gained about 10%. But the S&P is still almost 9% below its record high of 2022. So comparatively, India is doing better. Which brings us to the question: how is India sustaining this rally? What has propelled its markets to the top? Well, 2 key factors: steady growth and foreign investment. India's growth projections are optimistic. Investors like the Indian economy and its future prospects. The International Monetary Fund says India will grow at 5.9% this year. It believes that India will outperform all advanced economies and emerging economies. In other words, India will be the fastest growing economy in the world, and this is not a short-term projection. India will retain this tag for the next 3 years at least. That's what experts at S&P believe. They released their assessment earlier this week. So the Indian economy is growing at a fast pace and for a long duration, which is why investors are taking interest, and that's reason number 2. Global investors like India, they recognize the growth prospects, so they're putting their money into the Indian markets. Let me show you some more data. Last year, listed companies in India raised billions of dollars, almost $19 billion, and this is mainly through the buying and selling of shares. In 2022, Indian companies raised more money than the United Kingdom, Japan, Germany, and France. Now, under usual circumstances, these markets would have done better, but due to India's strong performance, it is generating better growth. So investors are turning to India. In this financial year, foreign portfolio investors have bought more Indian stocks. They've invested almost $11 billion. So we have a strong economy and more foreign investment. Now, broadly, these two reasons are driving the stock market rally, but this surge cannot be an assessment of the Indian economy. You see, stock market movements are influenced by the price of stocks and the larger market sentiment. Now, individual stocks do not represent the entire economy. Take the Nifty, for example. It's an index of the top 50 companies of India, only 50. Now, more than 37% of this index, Nifty, is made up of companies in the financial sector. So when these companies do well, the Nifty goes up. But when you talk about a country's entire economy, you must look at a wide range of metrics, a wide range of sectors like manufacturing, services, and other parts of the economy. So a rally on the stock market cannot really be an assessment of the entire economy. Having said that, India has a compelling story. Its companies are poised for growth, and the larger economic trend looks good. America, we know, is stagnated. Europe is on the brink of recession. China is struggling to get its act together. So India is the bright spot right now. The challenge is to retain this momentum. And that means staying the course on aggressive reform. And here's an example of that. What India shouldn't do: run its economy as per the whims of one leader. Xi Jinping's policies have driven China's economy into the ground. His Belt and Road Initiative led to high levels of debt. His obsession with zero COVID infected the economy. And his crackdowns on business leaders have driven away investors. The result is this: China is struggling, businesses are leaving, and Xi Jinping is trying to win them over. Today, the Chinese president made a pledge. He has promised to do right by foreign investors. Let me quote from what Xi Jinping has said. "We will continue to vigorously promote high-level opening up and better protect the rights and interests of foreign investors per the law." That's what Xi Jinping told New Zealand's Prime Minister. His name is Chris Hipkins. He's on an official visit to Beijing, and Xi told him that China is opening up again. Yesterday, the Chinese premier made a similar pitch. He tried to reassure investors. Beijing is trying very hard to reverse the slump, but it's not finding many takers. Especially after today's revelations. Headlines like these: a major corruption scandal has come to light. Turns out local governments in China are cooking up their books. They're inflating their revenue through phony asset sales. A number of bogus deals have come to light. Some 70 regions, 70 regions are said to have falsified their records in China. They inflated their revenue by $12 billion. Let me explain how this happened. This is mainly about land deals. Now, usually regional governments sell land to private players, to property developers, who then build apartments or commercial properties. This is how it works, and this is normal practice. It's also a major source of revenue for local governments. But in recent months, China's real estate sector has hit a slump. So the demand for land has shrunk. Fewer developers are buying land from local governments. And so government revenue has taken a hit. And government officials have come under pressure because their books are not looking good. Some of them started cooking up land deals. They created phony buyers on paper. They falsified records and showed land sales on their books, which was all fake. In reality, some officials were just transferring ownership on paper, and the land in question was still in government control. It had not been sold. All they did was change the names to create an illusion of an actual purchase. Subsequently, government revenues were inflated. We are talking about fake revenues up to $12 billion. Why do you think they did this? Because Chinese officials are desperate. They face large debt obligations, and they don't have the money to repay those debts. These are government debts we are talking about, not personal debts. Local governments in China are buried under loans. At the end of last year, they owed more than $8 trillion. We've told you about this before, $8 trillion. This debt has gone out of control. Land sales would have helped, but there was no demand for land. So local governments could not raise money. In fact, land sales have been an essential source of their income. In 2021, they accounted for more than 40% of local government revenue, the sale of land. Last year, sales were down by 23%, and this market